David, hello.
Hello, Nick.
It's lovely to see you. It's a very sunny day. What have you been doing today?
Well, I've been swimming, for one thing, in the morning.
In the sea?
I'm down, yes, we're living down we've moved down to our house at Kingsdown in Kent, near Deal. And it's a lovely place to be. It's surrounded by beautiful countryside. The White Cliffs are only about 10 minutes walk away. And this gorgeous beach, which it's a shingle beach, but it's a gorgeous beach. For one reason, hardly anyone ever uses it. It seems.
Well, that's a wonderful thing. It always feels so clean, a shingle beach, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And Jennifer, my wife, swims almost every day. I don't do that. I'm not a very good swimmer, and I have problems with waves.
Well, that is a problem with the sea.
Yes, I know. Today it was really quite calm. So.
Oh, that's lovely. Yes, it's a beautiful, very hot day.
It's a very
well, day. David, we're so thrilled to have you as part of our online festival this year, and I'm just so happy that we managed to make it work, that we could sort everything out, that was possible to play your piece, and it's very exciting. And I wonder if you could tell us, well, I mean, you and I have known each other a very long time. I mean, it's decades.
I was trying to think when it was, and I wrote my oboe concerto for you in, I think, 1990. And before that, you played, I think, the Flaying of Marsyas, hadn't you?
I did, and I also played your Little Threnody for Cor Anglais. I think that was written. Was it? Oh, was it? Yes. So the first piece was the oboe concerto, was it?
Yes.
Yes. And I mean, I think you forgive me for saying this, but I think you have a wonderful grasp of what the oboe can do, and it's. I mean, that was even before you knew me, so it's like.
Well, that's very nice of you to say that.
I mean, the Flaying of Marsyas. No, the Flaying of Marsyas is an absolutely brilliant piece. I was so happy when we could do it with the full string orchestra, because that makes that whole all the dueling in that piece really, really vivid.
Yes, that was very exciting.
And of course, I absolutely love your Sappho Fragments piece for countertenor, oboe, and piano, Congress of Passions. That's just wonderful. So, I mean, the thing is, this piece kind of came about because I was able to suggest you to Paul McCreesh as being simply the best person possible to do a version of the National Anthem, right?
Yes.
And I was lucky enough to be playing in the recording of it. And I have to say, well, actually, until I saw the last night of the proms, I don't think I've ever cried at the National Anthem before. And I mean, the way you handled the whole forces, the way you adapted to what Paul McCreesh was asking in terms of offstage trumpets and organ in Ely Cathedral and a choir of 500 children, and you know, it was, and I just said to myself, you know what, I think, David, it's a totally the opposite spectrum, and I tend to go a bit from one thing to another, but it's sort of the opposite spectrum of just a piece for oboe and piano. I just thought it's really time to talk to you again and see if you might have an oboe sonata in you. So that's what we did, didn't we?
Yes.
But it's ended up being just two movements, actually, which is just exactly what we needed for this program.
Yes. Yes, just to go back to the National Anthem, and it was my sort of mini Mahler's Eighth Symphony, really, because we had, I think, nearly 1,000 people.
Yes.
With the choir.
I mean,
all in the audience joined in the second verse of the anthem.
I've got goosebumps. It's a hot day. I have goosebumps just thinking about it. If listeners, if you haven't heard David's version of the National Anthem on the English Coronation CD of Paul McCreesh, just go now to the Gabrieli's CD, an English Coronation, and listen to that, because it's, I mean, I don't know how, it seemed to me, you did write bells in it, but it seemed to me that it had the sound of bells somehow magically created in it, and that, but I'm lost for words, which is a fairly rare thing. I absolutely loved it. But David, tell me, because you and I discussed you writing a piece for oboe and piano, and
yes,
and I sort of thought, then we discussed, when did you actually write this piece?
Well, I began it in December last year.
Because you had an idea for it, I suppose.
Yes. I mean, the first thing is, I mean, I was very, very happy to write another piece for you, because you're obviously my favorite oboist. We're all the best oboists in the world.
Thank you so much.
Modest about it, and also, I mean, rather like Britain writing for Rostropovich. I just love for someone whose technique and sound I know so well that I can absolutely imagine you playing it. And of course, I also know that you can do, for example, very long phrases without taking a breath, and quite a lot of those in this piece. But I mean, it's good to know these sorts of things because it sort of influences the way you write. Anyway, so I started it. I remember you saying, I don't want a pastoral piece, really. There's so many of those.
I should never say anything. I should stop saying anything to composers other than
when I started it, I thought, well, this does have a kind of pastoral feeling. But on the other hand, in some places anyway, but I thought, well, there's actually nothing terribly wrong with this, but it won't be like that all the time. And I already had the idea of a very fast second movement, which will be completely opposite in its spirit.
I mean, it's fascinating because I think that's very interesting about the long phrases, because I think what it does is it gives you a feeling of a broad landscape, and the way the piece starts, the way it emanates from the low register quietly, and then just rises up and then falls down. It gives this wonderful, I mean, a bit like late Strauss in a way, the sort of the way he writes these extended sort of an aria. And it is, I mean, I suppose if you're writing for the oboe, it's got this, you know, it's got this sort of penetrating quality, almost like birdsong, and it's also got this ability to chatter when you play short notes. It can play short better than any other instrument, really. And so we have to be careful when we're playing with other wind instruments not to be too pecky, otherwise we sound like chickens scratching around. But it's great to use that sometimes, and you do use it. But I would describe the first movement as very surprising as to what happens in it. Perhaps you could just explain how you came to write that.
Well, I suppose it's difficult to. I always find it difficult to explain why I do certain things, because things just sort of happen. I didn't start. I started off with the opening, obviously. Well, not obviously, but I did start off with the beginning, and then I just sort of let it go the way it seemed to want to go, and it went in various directions. And sometimes it gets quite hectic at times, and other times, then it calms down again. And then towards the end, there is this song thrush passage. Now, when I was writing it, this is early January. There was this, and I used to go for a morning walk, and there was this wonderful song thrush singing quite near me, and I thought I've been very interested in incorporating birdsong into my music recently. Well, in the last 15 years or so, I've quite a lot of pieces have got birdsong, and including other pieces have got a song thrush. My Ninth Symphony has a song thrush. Yes, but a different song thrush, obviously. And this one, well, I thought I will write down what it's trying to play, or I will write down what it's singing, if I could. And I'm not like Messiaen. I don't want to do it absolutely sort of scientifically. I want to sort of get the essence of what it's doing, as if it were a human being actually trying to sing. Which thrushes do remind me actually of. I mean, song thrushes are my favorite birds, I think, and they have such beautiful songs. I think if they were as rare as nightingales, I think they'd be as precious as nightingales to us.
Yes, I agree with you. And of course, I don't know if you knew this, but birdsong was my whole introduction to music.
Oh, I know this.
It's very extraordinary because my father, we never had any music at home whatsoever. It was almost like a music-free household. I mean, we had one album of the Rolling Stones and one of the Beatles because my parents disagreed about which was better, and that was it. But what we did have was a huge box set of short play records from the RSPB, and my father deliberately bought stereo speakers to put either side of the chimney place, so that we could hear the birds coming down the chimney. And we used to sit at home in the evenings and just listen to birdsong. I mean, it's very strange. And then actually, when my father died, it's more than 10 years now, but actually at his funeral, the music that I chose, or his sort of memorial funeral, was actually the Song of the Blackbird and nothing else. And people were like sitting there going, "Ooh, well, what's this all about?" And then after about 6 minutes, they went like that, and everybody just sort of went relaxed, and it was a wonderful thing. And of course, I mean, you wrote this in January, and you weren't to know what was about to hit the world.
No, I wasn't.
And
no.
how important birdsong became to so many of us.
Oh yes, indeed. I mean, especially to me. I mean, I've always loved listening to birds, all right from my earliest years. And I know all the bird songs. I mean, I can remember them from having learned them when I was a teenager.
Wow.
I can recognize birds when I'm not able to see them, and it's been marvelous being here all through, because I've been in Kent. I mean, that as I say, that first movement was written in Kingsdown. Then we went back to London, and then in March we moved down here, and I've hardly been away from here. Yeah. So I've experienced the whole of the spring with its wonderful birdsong.
I mean, it's incredible how the sky was a colour I don't remember seeing since I was a child.
Yes, it's a great place for birds, Kingsdown, because it's close to France, and all the migrants come over, and particularly come over in this area, and then before they go elsewhere.
Well, I'm thrilled that you included birdsong in it, because what happens is, it sounds to me like that moment before that happens is quite a build-up, and it sounds like I know you're probably a pretty not bad-tempered person, but it sounds like you slam a door and go out for a walk. Yes. And then, a bit like King David, the birds somehow soothe you.
Yes.
And that's what it does to the piece. I mean, it's got quite a, almost combative until that point, and then.
I didn't plan it. I mean, it's not until I heard it when I was, 3/4 of the way through the piece, that I heard the song title. I thought, yes, I think it's asking actually for me to put it in. Asking me to put it in. So I did.
And then the second movement that you've written has got a sort of middle section, which feels to me a bit like jazz. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I just love your playing in the slow movement of in the blues movement, of my oboe concerto.
It's one of the best things anybody's ever written for the oboe. So it's really a great joy to play.
I thought I'd do another one, and that forms the trio of the scherzo. So it's less. I mean, the outer sections are very, very fast indeed. In fact, almost, I didn't know you'd be able to play them so fast, but you can.
Well, I have a great partner in Anna Tilbrook. She learnt it quickly and specially, and it's very exciting. I think the audience is just going to love it. I mean, for us, it's the biggest privilege to be playing a world premiere when it just didn't seem to be possible to be doing such a thing right now. So I'm thrilled it's you, and I'm thrilled that you're joining Eleanor as you and Eleanor and Mark Simpson are our three composers in the festival, but Eleanor's being featured in every program. But to have a new piece by you is just such a joy. Thank you so much for writing it.
Well, thank you, Nick, and it's been wonderful, because this is my first performance for since March. So.
Oh. I know. It's
not
terribly shocking.
American organist gave a performance of a few organ pieces, which he sent to me on YouTube. But apart from that, this is certainly the first performance in this country that I've had.
Well, that's a very moving thing, and I'm so pleased. Well, thank you for joining us, David, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your sunny Sunday.
Thank you very much, Nick.
Thanks so much.
Bye.